we're going to start part 2 of this section, which is the word problems. So keep in mind, it's just exactly what I told you. The real takeaway is that can you find the equation of the line? So when you're doing these word problems, if you can find the equation of the line, you're going to be on your way to solving these, okay? That's all that you really need to know. The rest is just plugging in some numbers and doing some math. So let's start one of these word problems. Everyone follow along. At noon, a pump started emptying an oil storage tank at a constant rate. At 2 p.m., there were 1,680 barrels left in the tank. At 5 p.m., there were 600 barrels left. Now they want some information. So A, the most important thing, write a linear function to describe this situation. Okay? So you have this big tank full of oil. Try to picture this in your mind, and that will help you. And some of you, it may even help you to draw a little tank on your page, if that helps. That's fine. So they have this oil tank, and it's filled with barrels of oil. They start pumping it out at a constant rate. When they tell you a constant rate, this is important because the constant rate tells you have a linear function. Okay? In other words, your change is pumping out at the same, as time goes by, and it's not speeding up or slowing down. It's doing it at a constant rate, which means it's going to be linear or in a line. And so that's important. That's the first thing to look at. And of course that makes sense because we're doing linear functions. But that's why that's where it says a constant rate, so you're not confused about that. So you start at noon, and then 2 hours later, you have 1,680 barrels. So at noon, you had more than 1,680. We don't know how many more, but you have more than that. And after 2 hours of pumping, this is what you have left. And then after 3 more hours of pumping, you have 600 barrels left. Okay? So what you want to do is, we have to find the equation of this line to describe the situation. Okay? So think about it like this. You're looking for points on the line, exactly the way you did with your homework, only now you're finding them out of words. So you started at noon, okay? And then after a certain number of hours, you have less oil. How many hours, Courtney? How many hours? Guys. I'm sorry. You started at noon, and now you're at 2 p.m. So how many hours have went by? 2 hours. And after 2 hours, how many barrels do you have? Yeah. It's right there. I want to make sure you understand it so you can do it. So after 2 hours, how many barrels are left?
1,600.
Okay. All right, now I need a different point. So Michael Moody. All right. From noon to 5 p.m., how many hours have went by? 5 hours have went by. And how many barrels are left now? 600. From all this up here, this is all you need to come up with to be able to solve this problem, to write this equation, okay? Now you have 2 points. It's exactly the same way you had on your homework. Because now what does it tell you? Well, you know it's a line graph, and so now you have 2 points on the line, right? You have 2, 1680, and you have 5, 600. That's all that told you. So after 2 hours, you have this. After 5 hours, you have this. Okay? Now everyone find the slope on your paper. Find the slope of this thing. It shouldn't be too bad.
-3, 1,080.
What?
-6.
The slope. I want the slope of the line. Use those 2 points to figure out your slope.
Yeah, isn't that 1,080?
No. It's a negative number, I'll tell you that. When you have a slope, raise your hand when you get a slope. Because we can't move on until you can find the slope. It's the same as the other problems, only now you have bigger numbers, that's all. You have it? What is it?
1,080. Negative 1,000. I have negative 400.
Okay, well that's for the top, right? But then you have something over the bottom. You have 1,080, but over what? -3. Guys, change in x over change in y. And that'll equal out to what? Negative 360? So your slope is negative 360 of your line.
Miss Sager, the ladies have a question.
Yeah,
Well, if you're doing 5 o'clock, aren't you talking about how many hours?
yeah. Hours afternoon.
Yeah, hours afternoon, but you've gone, all right, never mind. Sorry, I missed something.
Okay, It's all right.
Everybody makes mistakes.
All part of the service here at Frank's House of Cards. All right. So this is your slope, right? You got a slope of negative 360. Guys, this is really important. So if you're lost right now, you got to let me know because going on to the rest isn't going to help me. So if you can understand how I got that slope, sort of nod your head at me.
Yes.
And if you're lost, just go like this or throw something at me or something.
All right, here.
Okay? So this is our slope, negative 360. Okay. So now we have points and we have a slope, so you can come up with this function of a line, this equation of a line. How will I do it? I already asked Morgan. Maggie, how am I going to come up with if I have a point and I have a slope, how do I find the equation of a line?
Do you do the y with the
Well, you don't know what the intercept is, so you got to use your other formula, which is just the point slope. What is that formula? I'm going to move this up just a little so that everyone can see. And what is that?
y minus y1
Equals what?
the slope,
M.
and then x minus x1.
Good. So I can use either of these points. It doesn't matter. I choose to use this one because it's got smaller numbers. That's just the way my mind works. But either one will give you the right answer. But y minus 600 will be negative 360 x minus 5. Okay? Now everybody try to... Did everyone follow that? Plugging this in. Okay. So now we're just going to use the distributive property over there. Equals minus 360 x plus... Oh, what's 5 times 360? 1,500 and 3 plus 1,800? You can do that on a calculator if you don't know, but I believe it's 1,800 there. Now, notice I'm just going to add 600 to both sides. So if I add 600 to that, it's going to be plus 2,400. And now notice what I have. I have the function of a line. I just have to change my y to my f of x. That's the answer to A. That's just finding that's all I want is the equation of the slope of the line, or the equation of the function. So this is all you had to do. Now, once you have this, I promise you, this is the hardest part. The rest of it is just simply putting in some numbers. So if you get to this part, you're pretty much golden. So this is A. It's just that function. That's A. So let's see what they actually want us to find out. How many barrels, guys, how many barrels were at the tank at noon? All right. So at noon, x is my time. So what do I put in for x? At noon, what do I have? How much time had gone by from noon to noon? None. So f of x equals minus 360 times 0 plus 2,400. And that should be pretty simple that when the 0 cancels out, it equals 2,400. This is how many barrels I had at noon. 2,400. See, so once you have this equation, now it's just plugging in a number and doing some math. Okay? And now let's see what the last question is. What time will the tank be empty? Okay? All right? So, guys, I don't want to lose you for the end of it here. This is the finale. This is the conclusion, okay? Austin Cars. This is my equation for the function. Now I want to know...
It doesn't even go here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Austin Carr? I meant Austin Farrell. I'm sorry.
Austin Car dropped out.
All right. So, my x was my time. This is my number of barrels. Now it says, when will it be empty? Well, what does that mean? If my barrels are empty, what do I plug in for that?
Wait, I don't know what this means.
0, right?
0, right, because there's no barrels left. There's no oil left. So now I'm just going to plug 0 in and say 0 equals minus 360x plus 2,400. And solve for my x. So I minus 2,400 from each side. And then somebody divide that out. What's 2,400 divided by 360? And if you divide it out, you will come out to 6 2/3. Guys. 6 2/3. What is this in? This is in fractions, but they want to know what time. So how am I going to turn this into a time? This is 6 2/3 hours after noon. So this is 6 o'clock, and then what's 2/3 of an hour? What time do I get?
40.
6:40.
60.
So what time? 6:40 p.m. That's what time the tank is empty. The real trick to the problem is setting up this equation. Once you do this, all you're doing is plugging some things in and finding your answers. This is the part. So when you're doing these for homework, they're going to ask you different situations. Find some points. Find some points. Find a slope, and you'll be all right. Okay. All right. What do we have? We still have 7 or 8 minutes. So let's do something else.
Why don't we start our homework? It's a lot.
It's a lot. There's only 9 of them. You want to start it?
Yeah,
You can start it if you're really going to start it, but don't just fool around. I'll come around and help you if you need help.